going on, everyone? This is going to be the second instructional type video that I do on motorcycling. In order to get the full benefit of this video, it's I would advise that you watch the first video, because in this video I'm going to assume that you know how to check your bike over before you ride it. I'm going to assume you know how to get on it, how to start it, and I'm going to assume that you know how to at least get it moving and how to use your brakes effectively. Just a couple reminders: most of the braking is done in the front, but it is a lot easier to lock up the rear tire. I'm just trying to re-emphasize that because it is a very important point. And then there's also the issue of lane position that I talked about last time, and how to set yourself up for corners. So this video is going to be focusing on the next few things that you really should know about your motorcycle, and that is going to be how to tell what gear you should be in, and also how to take corners. So the way to determine the gear that you're supposed to be in is you would obviously have to know where your bike's peak horsepower and torque is. I mean, you don't really need to know, but it helps. And the reason is you don't want your bike to dog. If you're not sure what that terminology means, to have a motor dog out, it's to be in an inappropriate RPM range on your tachometer. If you're unfamiliar with a tachometer because you are new to a manual transmission and you're used to just driving around in automatic, a tachometer represents the revolutions per minute, or RPM, times 1,000. So if your bike says you're on 4, like I am right now, that means in the time span of 1 minute intervals, your engine will make a full rotation 4,000 times, which is pretty fast. I mean, it's relatively compared to, let's say, a blender. Now, right now, I am in, I believe I'm in 4th gear. I don't even know. I'm just, because eventually you just learn by the RPMs which RPM you should be at what speed. The importance of knowing what gear to be in is, I mean, it could very well save your life, and it's very effective in case you try to, like, if you're behind somebody and they're going slow and you want to overtake the vehicle when it is safe and appropriate to do so, you'd want to be in the right gear. So like right now I'm in 4th gear, which is more or less a gear that you would just cruise around in. If I needed to speed up quick, I've got enough power on tap to do it. I could probably do better if I was in 3rd as opposed to 4th, and I'll kind of I'll demonstrate that after I get around this turn here to kind of explain what I'm talking about. So right now I'm in 1st gear, taking it kind of easy because these corners are wet. So right now I'm in 3rd. 3rd is perfectly adequate to cruise along at 30 miles an hour. Of course, there's going to be a bunch of fucking stops, so I can't really explain well what I'm doing. Actually, yes, I can. So let's say I didn't shift up and I wanted to ride 1st gear all the way to 30. The motor's just going to rev way too high up. It's going to be obnoxious, and also it's going to make your throttle very touchy. The slightest little movement is going to make the bike very grabby. See? So let's say I'm doing around 30 in 1st gear and I let off the gas. It immediately dives forward, and then you're going to panic and be like, oh, I need to speed up. If you're in a corner, you don't ever want to do it, but then it just makes it really jumpy. So it's important that you're in the right gear. As a general rule of thumb, I would say 3rd gear is good for 30. 4th gear is good for anywhere from 40 to 55, and then 5th gear is good from 55 to 65, etc., etc. So right now I'm in 3rd gear. Okay. it's just as bad to be in too high a gear as it is to be in too low of a gear. Now when I say high of a gear, I mean 6, like 5, 6. Going up is a high gear. When I say low gear, I mean going down, first gear. Okay, that's just the way that you explain gears. A lot of people would think high is number 1 because it sounds higher when you rev on it, but it's not how it works. So I'm going to get the bike up to 55 miles an hour, and you'll see as I switch through the gears. So right now I'm in first, second all the way to 30, then 40, fifth gear. I could cruise along at 5th very comfortably. I mean, it's not too unstable. I go to 6 just because I think it's better for fuel mileage to use a lower gear. And when you're slowing down, you want to be conscious how you're doing that. Speed limit's 30. Slowly let the clutch out while you give it a little gas. If you pull the clutch and then let it out, the bike's going to become jerky and uncomfortable. Okay? So, just like when you're going up in gears, when you have to let the clutch out and give it a little gas so that the ratios line up, you downshift, a little gas, let the clutch out slow. It's nice and smooth, the bike isn't jerky, and you don't look like a fucking idiot. Okay? That's how you downshift. Now, like what I was saying earlier, as far as being in too high of a gear, you don't want your engine RPMs to be insanely low. So like right now I'm in 3rd. Oops, wrong direction. So right now I'm in 3rd. I'm gonna go up to 4th, gonna go up to 5th, gonna go up to 6th. 6th gear at 30 is totally inappropriate. And here's why. If I needed to speed up for any reason, okay, let's say I saw somebody that was about to intersect my path, and I've chosen not to slam on my brakes because it's not a viable option, but to speed out of the way of danger, okay? I'm at 6th gear, okay, can't go up anymore. 6th gear doing 30. Now let's say I needed that immediate little boost of power to get out of the way. The bike's not going anywhere in 6th gear because it's too damn low. It's a very heavy load for the bike to handle, and it just, I mean, you can watch the throttle and the speedometer. It's not going to move very far. So back to 5th, back to 4th, back to 3rd. Now I'm in 3rd gear right now, and that power that's on tap is much more usable. Okay, if I'm in the same situation, now I'm in 3rd gear instead of 6th, and I need to get out of the way, the bike is going to be much more responsive. Okay, and as you go down into 2nd and 1st, it becomes even more responsive. It all correlates with throttle response. You don't want your bike to be sloppy, and you don't want it to lag on you when you need that acceleration. If you're trying to pass a car and you are in 6th gear, it's going to go kind of slow, even if you're doing 55, because 6th gear is intended for speeds of higher than like 60 or 65 miles an hour. It's like freeway speed. Normally if I'm in a 55 zone, I will be in 5th gear. So it's pretty easy to remember. 1st gear is good until 10, 15. 2nd gear is good until 20 or 30. 3rd gear is good till 30 something. 4th for 40, 5th for 50. It's a generalization. I mean, you'll learn what you're comfortable with on your motorcycle, but it's just a general way to remember and keep track of what gears you're in, because unlike a car where you can just peek over and look at the stick and kind of get an idea for what gear you're in, a bike you really have no idea unless you're sitting there counting. Okay, so right now I know I'm in 2nd, and now I'm in 3rd, and that just comes with experience and knowing your bike. So just to kind of recap everything that I've said, you don't want to be in too low of a gear because the bike it'll be very twitchy. It'll be very, very sensitive to how you handle that throttle. You don't want to be in too high of a gear, because then the bike will dog, it'll lag, and it won't have the power. So it will be unresponsive if you need it. So and I also went over how to transfer, like how to downshift. Downshifting is somewhat of a debated thing. A lot of people they choose not to use the gears to slow the bike down. I do, because I think it saves on your brake pads, and I don't think it's harmful to the engine. Like I said in the other video, it's a wet clutch, so the wear and tear between the two clutch plates is fairly minimal. But a lot of people will choose to stop like this. And again, I'm going to set myself up for this turn. They just pull in the clutch, they shift all the way down, and they just glide to a stop. I mean, if you're going through town, it's not bad to do it that way. It's just not the way I prefer to do it. So going around some turns, going kind of slow because the street, it's been raining all day, so the streets are kind of wet. So I think the next thing that I'm going to get into, now that we have a pretty firm understanding of how the RPM range works on a bike, and whether, you know, what gear to be in and when to be in that gear and whatever. I mean, keep in mind, these lessons are for beginners. There's some people that will ride their bike to redline, but if you're not racing people, you really don't need to have access to that kind of information. And I'm not going to be the one to teach it to you, because, you know, that would mean that I was condoning street racing, so I'm not going to be responsible for that bullshit. So a curve, or a corner, a turn, whatever the hell you want to call it, can be a very intimidating aspect of a motorcycle, because little do you know that when you're on a motorcycle, you have a thing called a contact patch. The contact patch is how much of your motorcycle's tire is actually touching the road. And once you learn how small that patch is, it can make you kind of nervous. I was going to use this parking lot, but apparently there's something going on here, so I'll just have to kind of do this on the fly. Anyways, like I was saying about the contact patch. In the front, if you look at your bike from the side when it's at a standstill position, you will notice that the size of the actual surface area of your front tire that makes contact with the road is roughly the size of a stick of gum, which is only about 1 inch wide and maybe 2 inches long. That's about as much tire as actually touching the road. In the back tire, depending on your tire size, if you have a full-size super sport bike, whether it be a 600 or a 1000, you most likely have a 180 back tire. That is the width of the tire, is a 180. My front's a 120, the rear is a 180. The contact patch in the back tire is going to be about the size of a credit card, okay? So if you think about it, you are driving around on very little contact with the road. So it makes people wonder, how the hell can I make a turn on such a tiny little contact area without those tires slipping out and me, you know, falling off the bike or it sliding out from under me? It's all just based on physics. When you're taking a corner, being that motorcycles or two-wheel vehicles are the only kind of vehicle that lean into the corner as opposed to away from them, like if you're driving a car and you go around to turn really hard, you will notice that the car tends to squat away from the turn because of the you know, because of the forces of centrifugal motion. Basically what it is when you're going around a turn, the car wants to be pulled away from the corner. A motorcycle will utilize that force by forcing it against the tires, because on a motorcycle you lean into the turn. So as you're leaning into the turn, those forces are transferred downwards and outwards through your tires. So that means the harder you lean your bike over, the more pressure that there is against the contact patch. So those laws of friction and you know, centrifugal force keep the motorcycle attached to the road. So you don't really need to worry about your tires. I mean, if they're properly inflated and you're not doing anything crazy like trying to drag your knee around every single corner in town, you'll be fine. It's very easy to corner a motorcycle, and I'm going to show you. One of the most important things about a motorcycle is having an understanding of what is called counter steering. Counter steering is something that will take place on a motorcycle. Notice I push the right grip to go right. It seems kind of counterintuitive, because when you push this side, the bike like the tire is going to point left. And you would think, well, wouldn't you want the tire to roll into the corner? You don't. It's just not how a two-wheeled machine works. See, push the right grip, go around the corner. Wait for some dumbass to move their car. Fuck you doing, man? Anyways, like I was saying, before I was so rudely interrupted by Mr. Hyundai Sonata up here, when your bike is going less than, let's say, anywhere from 15 to 20 miles an hour, the wheels are not going fast enough to generate what is called the gyroscopic effect. Anything that's spinning, any kind of wheel or cylinder that's spinning, will have a weird pressure along its axis. If you take a bicycle tire and spin it and then try to turn the handle, you'll feel it force against you. That is gyroscopic effect. Like I said, if you're going less than like 20 miles an hour, that doesn't really come into play. You just steer the bike the way that you want to go. And it's simple, which I will show you. I will demonstrate the technique. See right here. I want to go left, so I turn the wheel to the left. Okay? Pretty simple stuff. Now, when you get going above 20 miles an hour, if you're in the 20 to 30, whatever, 20, basically 20 miles and up, anytime the wheels are spinning fast enough to generate gyroscopic effect, you get is what's called counter steering, where the bike will try to steer against the direction that you're actually pushing the handlebars. So right here again, just steering the wheel the direction I want to go, because I'm only going 14 miles an hour. Now this corner up here, I will take a little faster, and I will show you again about the counter steering. So I'm pushing the left bar, and the wheel is going to steer that way, but I'm going to steer that way. And the reason that happens is because when you push the bar, the bike leans the direction that you push the bar. Okay? When it leans, you're now on the side of the tire, and it just creates a shorter path of resistance for the tire to travel on. So again, 14 miles an hour, just pushing it the actual direction it needs to go. And then this corner up here, I will use the counter steering method because I'm going above 20 miles an hour. Okay? So coming into a corner, you can watch again. Push that left bar, bike goes left. Push the right bar, bike goes to the right. Counter steering, it's very simple. A lot of people overcomplicate it. Even if you don't understand how it works, it doesn't matter, because it's going to happen. It's always going to happen. There is nothing that's ever going to change counter steering. It will always be there. Okay, so right now I am set up to I'm getting set up to make a turn. Up here there is a double turn. It's going to be a very wide right and then a semi-sharp left, depending on what speed you're going. There is a certain technique to cornering on a motorcycle that will help save your ass, and I will explain it as I'm doing it. So the first thing about corners is you want to make sure that you're comfortable with your entry speed. You don't want to go charging into a corner, because you only want to brake the motorcycle when it's up and down. So right now I'm comfortable going into this, let's say at 50. Once you start to lean over, give it a gas roll on, like that. So this next corner is a little bit sharper. I'm going to come into this corner doing about 53 miles an hour. As you lean over, gas, and go through the corner. Okay? The purpose of rolling the gas on in the corner and not gunning it is to keep the suspension equal and level. A bike is very dependent on its suspension to keep the tires pressed flat against the road. Okay? If you go charging into a corner, you don't ever want to use your brakes while you're leaned over unless you're trained and you know exactly what the hell you're doing and you know how to trail brake. So So basically, when you're a beginner, you want to get all your braking done while the bike is perfectly up and down. You don't want to be leaned over using your brakes. It's just a recipe for disaster. Like I was saying though, when you're taking a corner, it's very important that once you start rolling that throttle on, that you do not turn it off. You want to do a steady roll on all the way through the turn. And this is something that I would advise that you practice on a corner that is very familiar to you, and that you can sit there and just go through it over and over and over until you get it perfect. Okay? Now, the way that a motorcycle works is when you gas it really hard, all the weight goes to the back. If you're braking really hard, all the weight goes to the front. That's why you don't want to gas it really hard in a corner, and you want to keep it steady roll on. That's also why you don't want to use the brakes in a corner, is because you don't want the suspension to become light in the back. Since the back is the biggest contact patch, you don't exactly want to lighten that up because it's got the most force on it. Okay? A motorcycle suspension is going to be the most compliant in its mid-range, meaning when the bike is in mid-stroke, meaning the suspension is not topped out and it's also not bottomed out, it is in its most compliant range. That's where it works the best. Okay? So when you're going through a corner, the reason you don't want to ride the brakes, like I said, is so the weight doesn't shift forward. The reason that you do that constant steady roll on with the throttle is because it keeps the bike from going like this, either front heavy or back heavy. It keeps it very, very level, which means both your front and rear suspension are working in conjunction to keep your tires stuck to the road. So again, whether you understand it or not, you don't really have an option. You have to do it. If you're going to make a turn, you have to roll the throttle on consistently and evenly, which I'll demonstrate again. So anyways, coming up to a curve now, this is a very good example. This is a very tight turn. I'm just going to once again emphasize the cornering technique. Stay on the outside of the corner, okay? No more brakes as of now. As you're turning, you roll that throttle on, and the corner is nice and smooth. And another thing to consider when you're cornering, which I will demonstrate on this corner, is if you do let off the gas, even if it's just slow, the bike will start to stand up on you and you will run wide. Okay? So right here, I'm on the gas and I let off the gas. Now the corner is going wide. I could have tightened that corner up a lot more had I stayed on the gas. Okay? The reason is, when you let off the gas, okay, you are, the bike is going to lurch forward. It's taking pressure off the rear tire. It's putting more on the front, okay, because the bike is slowing. As the bike slows, forces of friction will cause that front tire to grab harder. If that front tire is grabbing harder, it makes the bike naturally want to, because if you roll a wheel down the middle of the road, it's naturally going to want to stay upright. It doesn't just immediately tip over, because the forces of the gyroscopic effect will keep it steady. If that front tire is slowing down and there's friction acting on it, okay, it resists the ability to be leaned over by going back to nature and wanting to stand up straight. So if you're in a corner and you cut the gas or you lay off the gas instead of rolling it on, the bike is naturally going to want to stand back up, because you are no longer fighting it with your throttle. When you turn, you are fighting the forces of nature, okay? That's another reason why the wheel turns funny when steering. That's why it points away from the turn, okay? Very simple stuff. I mean, even if you don't understand it, this is the most important part of these videos. If you don't understand the science behind something, it doesn't matter, because you still have to do it, okay? And this part of the lesson is going to be how to pull into a gas station. Okay, you check the scenery, keep that signal off so you don't look like an idiot. You watch for cars, and then you do this. You just roll up in that spot all nice and slow. Oh yeah, and then bam, cock that wheel, take up the whole fucking spot, drop the kickstand and just sit on it for a sec, look nice and cool, and then you get off and you do the stare around, like, yep, I got a bike.